You have a sort of a double-edged reputation in South Africa. Some people I talked to spoke highly about you and what you're trying to do to save rhinos. Others say, to a point, Lord Copper, but actually you're still trying to make money out of the ivory, and they weren't quite as convinced by your principled stand. There's no doubt that rhinos are going to be extinct if nothing dramatic is done to save them, right? On that, we can all agree.
Quite correct.
The question then becomes, how do we stop poachers killing the rhinos for their ivory?
Brutally.
Your plan is... Well, describe to us exactly how you think your plan works.
We need to remove the horn anyway. And we remove it only like when you cut your nails. You only cut the dead part. Mm-hmm. You don't go to the live part. So there's no bleeding, no feeling. So, but it removes most, not all. It removes most of what the poacher wants. So the day after you dehorn him, the poacher must have the same risk, the same amount of work, but for a much less reward. So we believe that is common sense to make it less profitable for the poacher.
Now that I agree with. Yeah. Okay, I think most people would think it sounds sensible. The bit I don't get with you is that you then still want to sell the ivory that you're collecting, which to me continues the market, which is what these poachers are working for.
Bans don't work. Ask the Americans about their alcohol ban. It only creates a business for the illegal.
What is your biggest concern about John's work?
The biggest concern is if we reopen the trade in rhino horn, we are going to perpetuate the myth that it has some intrinsic value or medicinal value, which it certainly does not. And if you reopen that trade, you will stimulate demand way beyond the supply that John... And indeed, if you took every horn off every single rhino that exists, and there are only about 25 to 30,000 remaining in Africa today, you still wouldn't be able to satisfy the demand in China and Vietnam. So there's a real risk here that you are going to stimulate demand to the point that the criminal syndicates that currently exploit this trade are just going to continue to profit in any case.
You see, John Hume, that's my problem. You've got 2,000 rhinos in your farm, is that right?
1,538.
OK, so that's a lot of rhinos, and there's no doubt that you are affording them more protection than they would have if they were at loose, I guess, in the wild where poachers could get to them, right? That's your argument, yeah?
Yes, but my argument against Charlie's is that we are losing the war. We've taken the risk. We took the risk by imposing the moratorium. Before the moratorium, there was virtually no poaching in South Africa.
So let's just go, let me stop you there. In 2007, 13 rhinos were poached in South Africa. By 2014, it was 1,215, most of them from the Kruger National Park. That is a massive, Charlie, massive increase in the number of rhinos being poached. That is why the position with rhinos is now so perilous. So clearly, the existing system, as John Hume says, has simply not been working. Is it not worth at least exploring if his way of doing things might work?
I simply don't agree. I think the economics are that there was a study done that showed that in order to satisfy the demand in China, you would need something like 400 tons of rhino horn per year. You simply can't satisfy that demand, so you are going to drive up prices. And the criminal syndicates will continue.
But the 1,500 rhinos, which is a massive number, a very big proportion of the total that are out there in John's farm, because they are dehorned, don't have that value, right? Is the answer not to take all the horns? Why not take all the horns off all the rhinos?
A lot of rhino sanctuaries have done what John has done in taking horns off rhinos in order to reduce the temptation for poachers.
Because you don't want anybody thinking there's anything special about rhino horn.
Correct.
Because you don't want there to be a market for this at all, legal or illegal.
Correct. And look at what's just happened in China. At the beginning of this year, Xi Jinping has announced his intention to close down the domestic trade in ivory. You know, if a country like China decides that, they get on and do it, and we are beginning to see them close down those factories and make a move.
You see, I'm with John about 2/3 of the way. You lose me when you want to sell the ivory. I don't think you need to do that. You could simply destroy it. You don't need the money, right? You're a wealthy guy, right?
Well, I used to be.
Right.
My project cost me 5 million rand a month to run, and I'm genuinely running out of money because there's no income.
But if you make money from selling the ivory, I just believe you continue the marketplace, which other countries like China are at least now trying to destroy.
I have no problem with demand reduction, as it's called. No problem at all. Because if you win the war of demand reduction, there'll be no demand for rhino horn. It will be worth nothing. Nobody will want to kill my rhinos, so I will cut more than half of my running costs, because more than half of my running costs are for the security of the rhino. Wow. But until you win your war and have no demand, zero demand, don't kill all my rhino, because my rhino will not be there in 10 years' time.
Charlie, we've had trophy hunters on before that enrage me. I don't park John into that category.
No, no.
It's a different category.
Yeah,
you know, you may have points of disagreement about how ultimately the ivory gets done, but essentially, at least he's trying to preserve the lifespan of rhinoceros.
Oh, I certainly don't deny his commitment to trying to save the rhino. That's very clear and very evident.
Well, it's a real problem. A good friend of mine, Kevin Peterson, the cricketer, is very active in this world, and some of the stuff he's been telling me is horrific. And the numbers, if you look at the numbers that are being poached and hunted and killed just for their tusks, it is terrifying. And something has to be done. So hopefully, by having the debate, we raise more awareness and something will get done.
What we are doing now is simply not sustainable. We are losing 3 rhinos a day in South Africa.
Yeah, they'll be gone.
Sustainable.
They will be gone.
We are losing the war.
We will lose these wonderful animals if we don't do more. So, interesting debate, chaps. Thank you both for coming in.